4 body parts she reveals when she likes you. Vertical bar psychology insights. Right now, somewhere in the world, a woman is showing exactly how she feels about a man, and she isn't saying a single word. There's no dramatic confession, no long late-night message, just quiet signals moving through her body like a current of energy. As Rumi once said, love is the bridge between you and everything, and very often, that bridge is built in silence. The reality is that attraction rarely introduces itself with bold statements. Instead, it speaks through posture, lingers in eye contact, and appears in the smallest physical movements. Unfortunately, most men never notice these details. They wait for clear confirmation, something obvious and verbal, and while they're waiting for certainty wrapped in words, the moment quietly slips away. What truly changes your perspective is understanding this. Genuine attraction is biological before it becomes logical. Research published in Evolution and Human Behavior suggests that women often show romantic interest through repeated nonverbal signals long before any words are spoken. These cues may appear again and again while many men remain completely unaware. That isn't manipulation, it's instinct. The body often reacts faster than the mind. When you learn to recognize these signals, you move into a completely different level of awareness. Communication is never just about what is said. Psychologist Albert Mehrabian famously showed that only a small portion of emotional meaning comes from words themselves. Most of it is carried through tone and body language. So while she might be talking about something simple, work, the weather, or a random story, her body could be communicating something far more meaningful. The secret is simple. Observe without desperation, stay present without pressure, and remain confident without jumping to conclusions. Once you realize that the body has difficulty hiding genuine feelings, you stop chasing reassurance and start paying attention to reality. And when you become aware of that silent language, every interaction begins to feel different. Let's start with the first signal, the neck. But understand something clearly, this isn't just about anatomy. It's about behavior, timing, and subtle intention beneath conscious awareness. When a woman slightly tilts her head to one side while you're speaking, when she gently moves her hair aside and leaves her neck visible for a moment longer than necessary, when her fingers softly touch the side of her throat as she listens, those are moments worth noticing. This is considered one of the oldest attraction cues rooted deep within female psychology. The reason is simple. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the body. It protects vital areas like the carotid artery, the jugular vein, and the airway. From an evolutionary perspective, exposing it is rarely accidental. It often acts as a quiet signal of comfort, a silent message that says, "I feel safe here." And safety is the foundation of emotional connection. Don't dismiss it too quickly or assume it's just casual grooming. Instead, remain observant and composed, because repetition is what truly matters. Once might be coincidence, twice could be a habit. But when it happens, 3 or more times in a single interaction, it often means her nervous system feels relaxed and receptive around you. That isn't a minor detail. It's biology expressing itself more clearly than words ever could. This is exactly where many so-called psychology tricks fail. Some men rush the moment because they focus too much on what they should say, instead of noticing what her body has already been communicating. Anthropologist Dr. David Givens has noted that this kind of subtle exposure existed long before spoken language, which means her body may be sending signals on a level far older than logic itself. Now widen your awareness even further, because the neck rarely appears alone. It is often accompanied by the second signal, her wrists and palms. And this one can be just as revealing. When a woman naturally turns her palms upward while speaking, when the soft inner side of her wrist becomes visible while she gestures, or when she slowly adjusts a bracelet while holding eye contact, these small moments can carry meaning. The wrists are another sensitive area of the body. Thin skin, visible veins, and clear pulse points. Across many cultures, an open palm has long symbolized trust and a lack of hostility. So when she frequently shows her palms during a conversation, it often suggests she isn't guarding herself. She feels open, and openness becomes the emotional doorway for connection and attraction. Don't confuse this with dramatic flirting. These cues are subtle. They're quiet. They follow a rhythm, and rhythm is important in female psychology. Attraction rarely comes from one isolated action. It usually appears as a repeating pattern. If you want to understand psychology in a healthy and genuine way, you need to watch for clusters of signals rather than focusing on a single gesture. Then we move to the third signal, her lips, and the subtle ways she draws attention to them without making it obvious. This isn't about bold or exaggerated seduction. Instead, it appears through tiny behaviors. For example, a gentle bite of the lower lip when eye contact lingers a little longer than usual, the slow application of lip balm during conversation, or the unconscious habit of touching her lips while she listens. These movements often release nervous tension, and tension tends to appear when there is emotional energy in the moment. That emotional energy is often one of the early stages of attraction, where curiosity and anticipation begin to grow together. Of course, not every touch of the lips means desire. Stay grounded and realistic. But when these signals appear alongside an exposed neck and open palms, you're no longer looking at random movements. Instead, you're seeing body language that begins to align. Aligned signals are the real foundation of effective psychology, observation, rather than manipulation. Finally, the fourth signal involves her feet and the direction of her body. Most men overlook this completely, even though it might be the most honest indicator of all. The reason is simple. Feet rarely pretend. If her torso turns toward you in a group conversation, if her knees naturally angle toward you even while someone else is talking, if her feet gradually shift to face you, despite the distractions around her, that shows investment. It shows attention becoming visible, and attention is the real currency of attraction. Don't chase words when her body is already choosing closeness. Don't overtalk when her posture is quietly leaning in. Stay steady. Stay composed. A calm, grounded presence often strengthens these signals instead of interrupting them. Here is the deeper reality behind female psychology. Attraction tends to grow in environments where a woman feels both emotionally safe and gently excited. Safe enough to reveal a bit of vulnerability, yet intrigued enough to express it. When you start recognizing these four areas, the neck, the wrists, the lips, and the direction of her body, you begin to see that falling in love rarely starts with dramatic declarations. Instead, it unfolds through a series of small permissions built on comfort and curiosity. Psychology techniques, when misunderstood, turn into tactics. But when they are understood correctly, they become awareness. They become the skill of noticing patterns without trying to force an outcome, and that difference separates desperation from confidence. You shouldn't react too quickly when you notice these signs. Avoid escalating the situation abruptly. Attraction develops through pacing, and pacing requires emotional control. If she tilts her neck again, hold eye contact, but soften your expression. If her palms open during conversation, reflect that openness with relaxed gestures of your own. If her lips part slightly while she listens, slow down your speech, lower your tone, and allow a little space in the moment. Space allows tension to exist, and tension is an important part of how attraction builds. Remember this clearly. Her body often shows comfort before her words reveal intention. If you ignore that comfort, you risk damaging the connection. Stay patient, stay observant. Approach the situation with calm awareness. True understanding of psychology doesn't come from manipulation. It comes from learning to read the quiet language of the body. When you combine awareness of female psychology with emotional steadiness, You present yourself as the kind of man who understands attraction without chasing it, someone who notices vulnerability without taking advantage of it, someone who allows signals to unfold naturally instead of forcing them. That restraint, that grounded presence, is what transforms small gestures into meaningful connection. Attraction is rarely loud, it's layered. It repeats itself through exposed necks, open wrists, softened lips, and bodies that gradually turn toward you, sometimes even before the mind fully understands why. And once you learn to recognize these signals clearly, something changes. You stop guessing. You stop overthinking. Instead, you respond with quiet confidence, which is often the strongest signal of all. The second signal, the inner wrists. Now let's focus on the second signal, the inner wrists. This cue is subtle, quiet, almost poetic, but it can reveal a lot when you know how to notice it. When a woman feels attracted to someone, she may unconsciously expose the inside of her wrists. You might see her resting her chin lightly on her hand, with the wrist turned upward, gesturing with open palms as she speaks, or placing her hands on the table, with the soft underside visible. At first glance it looks completely innocent. It appears effortless and natural, but it's rarely random. What you're seeing is biology working together with emotion. The inner wrist is a sensitive pulse point. The skin there is thinner, and the veins are more visible. It's an area people instinctively protect when they feel uncomfortable or unsafe. In body language studies, exposing the inner wrist is often categorized as a vulnerability display. When someone feels guarded, they usually hide it. When attraction or comfort is present, openness increases. So don't ignore it, and don't brush it off as pure coincidence. Simply observe and stay calm. Research from the University of Manchester found that women experiencing early romantic attraction tend to use noticeably more open palm and wrist gestures compared to neutral conversations. That's not just theory, it's supported by data. And much like the neck, the wrist also happens to be a point where fragrance is often applied. When she subtly turns her wrist upward, she isn't only revealing skin, she may also be allowing her natural scent to drift closer. Attraction is rarely loud. Most of the time it speaks quietly. But here's the deeper idea. The wrist signal isn't really about the wrist itself. It's about comfort. It's about trust. It reflects how your presence affects her nervous system. A confident, high-value man understands this difference. He doesn't chase signals. Instead, he creates an environment where those signals appear naturally. When a woman feels tense, judged, or pressured, her body tends to close off. Her arms cross, her palms disappear, her wrists fold inward. That's a protective response. But when she feels relaxed, curious, and emotionally safe, her body language softens, her gestures become smoother, her hands open, and her wrists turn upward. That's not necessarily an invitation to intimacy, but it can be an invitation to connection, and connection always comes first. So don't rush the moment, and don't jump to conclusions. Stay steady. Masculine energy isn't about force, it's about grounded presence. When you're sitting across from her, your role isn't to impress her with memorized lines. Your role is to maintain calm eye contact, speak at a relaxed pace, and truly listen, because when she feels comfortable, her body often responds before her words do. Imagine this, she's telling a story, and at first her gestures are small. Her hands remain close to her body. Then you ask a thoughtful question. Instead of leaning in aggressively, you lean back slightly. You smile in a relaxed way. Suddenly her movements become more expressive. Her palm opens while she explains something. Her wrist turns upward as she gestures. She lightly rests her chin on her hand, revealing the soft inner side of her wrist. That shift isn't accidental. It shows that comfort is growing. A confident man recognizes that the body often communicates before the mouth does. He doesn't interrupt that silent language by becoming overly eager or needy. Don't overreact. and don't call attention to it. Doing that would break the natural flow of the moment. This is where many men make a mistake. They notice a vulnerability cue and immediately try to escalate, either physically or verbally. That reaction usually comes from impatience, and impatience often destroys attraction. Vulnerability, when offered, needs to be met with stability. If she shows openness, respond with calm, grounded confidence. That's how attraction develops consistently, by being the emotional anchor rather than the emotional storm. Masculine energy is steady and controlled. It doesn't panic or rush. So if she exposes her wrist while laughing at something you said, simply maintain the moment. Stay relaxed, keep the conversation flowing, and allow the connection to continue naturally. Let the moment breathe. Attraction grows in open space, not under pressure. There is also something deeply instinctive happening here. Throughout human history, exposing pulse points has been connected with trust. The neck, the wrists, the inner arms, these are areas people naturally protect when they feel threatened. So when she allows those areas to remain visible in your presence, she may be communicating something deeper than words. I feel safe enough to relax here. That matters, and it deserves respect. A confident, high-value man doesn't take advantage of vulnerability, he honors it. Interestingly, that respect often strengthens attraction. When she senses that you're not rushing to capitalize on her openness, her trust grows. And when trust grows, desire tends to follow naturally. Also pay attention to the rhythm between you. Is she mirroring your movements? Are her palms open when yours are? Does she turn her wrist upward while maintaining eye contact? These tiny moments start forming patterns. A single gesture rarely means much, but repeated patterns can say a lot. So avoid obsessing over one signal. Instead, observe clusters of behavior. That's a form of emotional intelligence. If you want to attract women in a genuine way, sharpen your awareness and slow down your perception. Most men move too quickly in their minds. They talk too much, and in doing so they miss the quiet cues happening right in front of them. Be different. Become comfortable with silence. Notice how she uses her hands when she laughs, when she pauses to think, or when she playfully teases you. Attraction often reveals itself during those natural transitions. Here's another subtle detail. Sometimes a woman lightly touches her own wrist while speaking with you. This can act as a self-soothing gesture, combined with heightened awareness. It often appears when someone feels both excitement and vulnerability at the same time. Don't immediately interpret that as nervous rejection. In some cases it reflects anticipation. When emotions rise, the body often regulates itself through small calming gestures. But keep this in mind. Signals are invitations to deepen connection, not shortcuts to escalate physically. Progress happens when emotional steadiness is present. That's masculine energy in practice. Quiet, calm, and grounded, rather than loud or flashy. If she rests her chin on her hand with her wrist exposed, she's also lingering in the moment, and lingering usually indicates interest. People rarely linger when they feel disengaged. Instead, they withdraw, glance at their phone, or close off their posture. If she remains engaged, gestures openly, and keeps that pulse point visible, you're likely in a positive space. Stay centered and avoid becoming obsessed with the outcome. Attraction is a dance, not a transaction. When you operate with the mindset of a high-value man, you focus on the experience rather than the result. You enjoy the conversation, you enjoy her presence, and ironically, that sense of detachment often makes her feel even more comfortable. The inner wrist may seem small, soft, and easy to miss, yet in the silent language of attraction, it carries meaning. It can signal that her guard is gradually lowering. Dottie suggests that your presence feels steady, and steadiness is rare. So the next time you're on a date or having a conversation, quietly observe, are her palms open? Are her wrists visible? Does she move her hands freely when she speaks around you? If the answer is yes, then you're likely doing something right. Stay grounded, stay composed. Don't try to force chemistry. Let it develop naturally. Be the kind of man who understands that genuine attraction begins with emotional safety. That's how you attract women who are looking for depth. That's also how masculine energy operates at its highest level. Calm, patient and aware. The wrist isn't just skin, it's a signal. Notice it carefully. Respond with strength balanced by gentleness. And remember, when someone offers vulnerability, your reaction determines whether attraction grows stronger or quietly fades. Be steady, be intentional, be the man who understands that true power is often quiet. If you recognize that attraction grows from comfort, not chasing, and that vulnerability is earned rather than demanded, then carry that awareness with you. The next time you see her palms open and her inner wrists exposed, don't rush the moment. Stay calm, stay centered. That's where real connection often begins. If this insight resonates with you, write this in the comments to lock it in. I stay calm, and she feels safe to open up. Like the video, subscribe for more sharp psychological insights, and remember, attraction grows when a man learns to control himself first. The third signal, the legs. Now pay close attention, because this is where mature awareness separates you from the average man, the one who is still guessing, still hoping, and reacting emotionally, instead of observing with clarity. When we talk about the legs as a signal of attraction, this isn't about imagination or fantasy. It's rooted in behavioral science. Former FBI behavioral expert Joe Navarro has often explained that the feet and legs are among the most honest parts of the human body. Why? Because people consciously manage their facial expressions, their tone, and their words, but almost nobody actively controls their lower body. In many cases, the truth quietly appears there. If you develop the habit of noticing these cues, you gain a deeper level of awareness without needing to say a single word. This isn't about tricks, it's about perception. It's about seeing what already exists. Ancient Stoic wisdom encourages this same approach. Observe reality clearly, without distortion. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every day to look at things plainly, without unnecessary drama. That mindset applies here as well. Don't romanticize. Don't exaggerate, just observe. Imagine you're in a group setting, maybe a dinner, a social event, or a networking gathering. Watch where her feet naturally point. Direction often reveals focus. Human beings tend to orient their bodies toward what captures their interest. Even when her head turns to someone else, her feet may reveal where her attention truly lies. If her toes repeatedly angle toward you, even while she's speaking with someone else, there's a good chance her attention keeps returning in your direction. That shows subconscious engagement. It reflects alignment. The body often moves toward what it feels drawn to, long before the mind openly acknowledges it. But if her feet consistently point toward the exit, toward another person, or generally away from you, that information matters as well. Don't ignore it. And don't try to argue with it. Observations are neutral. How you respond to them is your choice. That is the discipline of a steady mind. Now go a little deeper with this awareness. If she crosses her legs while sitting, and the upper leg angles toward you, that direction is rarely accidental. Orientation often signals openness. When the line of her leg points toward you, it creates a subtle sense of approach. When it angles away, it can suggest distance or reservation. There's nothing mystical about this. It's simply spatial psychology. People subconsciously create physical barriers when they feel uncomfortable, and they open physical pathways when they feel at ease or interested. Research by Dr. Monica Moore on nonverbal courtship behavior found that slowly crossing and uncrossing the legs can be one of the more noticeable silent attraction cues. It naturally draws attention without appearing forceful. The gesture is subtle, controlled, and often elegant. Men who understand calm awareness recognize that quiet signals are often the most powerful ones. However, this is where many men make a mistake. They notice one positive sign and immediately rush the moment. Internally, they become anxious, they talk too much, they lean in too aggressively, and they break the natural rhythm. Avoid that reaction. Attraction tends to grow best in calm environments. Stoic philosophy reminds us that our inner state shapes what happens externally. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." In modern relationships, that kind of bravery doesn't mean being loud, it means staying composed. When you notice her legs naturally orienting toward you, respond with steadiness rather than excitement. Maintain relaxed eye contact, speak clearly and calmly, don't suddenly start performing or trying too hard. Stay centered. That quiet stability is often what people find most magnetic. Movement is another detail worth noticing. Attraction can trigger subtle chemistry in the body, dopamine, adrenaline, and mild nervous system activation. The body doesn't always hide this energy completely. You might see a gentle bounce of the knee, a slight shift of weight, or a soft sway of the leg while standing. These small movements can reflect heightened emotional energy. Energy naturally looks for release. If those movements appear while she's engaged with you in conversation, smiling, maintaining the conversation, and leaning slightly forward, when those behaviors appear together, they start to carry meaning. Patterns matter. Repetition matters. One isolated gesture rarely means anything, but when you see the same signals repeating in a consistent way, that's when it becomes significant. This is strategic observation. This is disciplined awareness. In modern life, many interactions happen in noisy environments, bars, offices, social events, or even meetings that began online and later moved in person. Most men are distracted in those situations. They check their phones, wrestle with their own insecurities, or stay trapped in their internal thoughts. Because of that, they miss what's actually happening right in front of them. You have to reverse that habit. Be present. Put the phone away. Slow your breathing and expand your awareness. When you operate from a calm, disciplined mindset, you stop chasing validation. Instead, you quietly gather information, and information builds confidence. Confidence reduces fear. When fear fades, desperation disappears, and desperation is often what destroys attraction. Another detail worth noticing is leg positioning and exposure when she's seated. If she sits with her legs angled toward you and keeps them open in your direction, that can signal comfort. If she repeatedly adjusts her position to maintain that orientation, even as people around her move, that consistency may be meaningful at a subconscious level. Human beings are naturally territorial with their bodies. We create space away from people we dislike, and we relax that space around people we trust. Trust is the gateway to deeper connection, and connection never grows in tension, it grows in comfort. So your responsibility is simple. Don't disrupt that comfort. Avoid becoming abrupt. Don't invade her personal space too quickly. Allow her body orientation to help guide the pace. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once taught, first decide who you want to be, and then act accordingly. If your goal is to be a composed and perceptive man, your behavior should reflect that. That means patience. That means measured responses. When you notice positive signals in her leg orientation, don't rush to escalate physically. Instead, deepen the interaction emotionally and verbally first. Expand the conversation. Lower your tone slightly. Maintain relaxed posture. Give her the opportunity to lean in closer on her own. Attraction tends to grow through gradual steps, not sudden leaps. There's also a more advanced layer to watch for: mirroring. If you subtly adjust your stance and she unconsciously mirrors the direction of your legs or feet a few moments later, that can indicate rapport. Rapport suggests synchronization, and synchronization often reflects psychological alignment. However, don't try to test this in an obvious way. Keep the adjustments small. Shift your posture slightly. Change the angle of your feet, and simply observe whether she naturally adjusts as well. If she mirrors you, the rhythm between you may be building. If she doesn't, remain neutral. Don't show disappointment, and don't let your ego react. That emotional neutrality is a sign of mental strength. Stoic philosophy often emphasizes controlling your interpretation rather than trying to control external events. You can't manufacture someone else's attraction. What you can do is recognize when it's present and create an environment where it has space to grow. That difference is powerful. Many people try to force outcomes, but force tends to create resistance. Calm presence creates flow. When her legs repeatedly turn toward you, when subtle movements show up in your presence, when the distance between you naturally decreases, your role is not to rush the moment recklessly. Your role is to remain steady so she feels comfortable continuing forward. In modern dating culture, people often overanalyze text messages and completely overlook physical presence. But the body usually communicates first. Words tend to come later. The legs, the feet, the direction of the knees, these are instinctive signals. They often bypass social filters and reveal comfort or discomfort very quickly. Once you learn to read them, rejection becomes less confusing. You move forward only when openness is already visible. That reduces unnecessary risk. It creates smoother interactions, and it builds confidence based on observation rather than imagination. However, let's be clear about something important. Never stare at someone's legs in a way that makes her uncomfortable. Observation should always be subtle. Peripheral awareness is enough. You're not scanning like a predator, you're noticing like a strategist. There's a big difference. Healthy attraction grows from mutual comfort, not pressure. If she senses that you're evaluating her in a mechanical or obvious way, the energy can shift negatively. Keep your focus balanced on her face, her eyes, your posture, your tone, while quietly noticing how her body is oriented. And remember this final principle: signals invite a response, not an assumption. When her legs angle toward you, when her feet point in your direction, when subtle movements appear around you, that's an invitation to continue the connection, not a guarantee of any outcome. You still need to communicate well. You still need to show emotional steadiness. You still need to demonstrate that you are grounded, reliable, and composed. This is where Stoic thinking becomes practical. It isn't about being cold or distant. It's about controlled warmth. It's about confident presence. A disciplined mind doesn't get carried away by small wins, and it doesn't fall apart over small setbacks. It stays balanced. When the signals are positive, you move forward gradually. When the signals are neutral or negative, you step back respectfully, without resentment or frustration, just clarity. And clarity is powerful. Clarity prevents embarrassment. Clarity protects your dignity. There is also a deeper advantage here. When you stop chasing and start observing, your behavior naturally becomes more attractive. You speak more calmly. You move more deliberately. You react less impulsively. You become centered, and that centered calm draws attention because it's rare. In a world that often runs on impulse and noise, the man who embodies quiet awareness stands out immediately. He doesn't need to dominate the room. His calm presence already creates space around him. So train yourself. Notice the feet. Notice the legs. Notice the direction of the body. Notice repetition. Stay calm when you see positive signals. Stay calm even when you don't. That emotional consistency, that steady composure, is the real mark of a disciplined mind. That level of mastery creates a quiet kind of confidence. And that confidence begins to change the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, how you decide when to move things forward and when to hold back. When you consistently operate from that state, attraction stops feeling confusing and starts becoming strategic. This is not about manipulation, it is about perception. It is about aligning your actions with the signals in front of you. It is about winning through awareness. In Stoicism, victory is rarely loud. It is a silent advantage. It is the man who reads the room before he says a single word. It is the man who senses openness before he steps closer. It is the man who understands that real strength is the ability to stay composed when emotions are running high. Remember this. The body often reveals what the mouth hesitates to express. Train your eyes. Discipline your reactions. Strengthen your internal state. Practice a focused and steady mind every day in conversations, in meetings, and in every interaction. Because the skill of reading non-verbal signals is not just about attraction. It improves leadership. It sharpens negotiation. It strengthens social intelligence in every area of life. Master this, and you stop playing guessing games. Master this, and you begin to move with precision. Master this, and you bring ancient Stoic wisdom into modern relationships. Calm, observant, strategic, unshaken. That is how you elevate yourself. That is how you win quietly. That is the Stoic way of victory. The fourth and most powerful signal, the torso. The torso is the final and most powerful signal. If you truly want to understand attraction, not guess about it, not imagine it, but read it with calm clarity, you must learn to pay attention to the center of her body. Because when a woman feels safe, curious and genuinely drawn to you, she turns toward you fully, not halfway, not politely, not by accident, but with her stomach and chest facing you in a clear, open line. And that small shift communicates more than 1,000 practiced compliments ever could. The torso protects the heart, the lungs, and the body's most vital organs. From a survival perspective, the human body does not casually expose that vulnerable front to someone it does not trust. So when she squares her torso toward you instead of angling away, when her shoulders stay aligned with you instead of pointing toward the exit, that is not random. That is biology. That is ancient wiring, speaking before her words even catch up. And if you study female psychology long enough, you begin to realize something important. The body often admits what the lips carefully filter. Research from Princeton University's Social Neuroscience Lab found that full frontal orientation is one of the strongest early indicators of interpersonal attraction within the first few minutes of interaction. This means you do not have to wait for dramatic confessions or exaggerated flirting. You simply have to observe, and observe with discipline. Because attraction appears in patterns, it builds in layers. It develops quietly, and the torso often acts as the anchor of that pattern. When she feels comfortable, when your presence feels steady rather than chaotic, she may lean slightly forward instead of leaning back. She might make small adjustments to her clothing in subtle ways, smoothing the fabric around her waist or lightly straightening her jacket. She might rest a hand on her hip or place her palm gently near her midsection. Behavioral scientists describe these gestures as ventral displays, signals of openness and receptiveness that tend to appear when the nervous system feels relaxed instead of defensive. Here is the key idea you need to keep firmly in mind. These signals rarely appear by themselves. They cluster together. And if you want to understand psychological cues without becoming manipulative, you have to watch for clusters rather than single, isolated movements. Do not fixate on one quick hair flip. Do not build stories in your mind over one brief glance. Stay patient, stay observant, stay grounded, because when genuine attraction is present, you will start noticing several signals appearing together: the exposed neck, the visible wrist, the direction of her legs pointing toward you, and the full orientation of her torso. They begin working together like instruments in a quiet orchestra, each one reinforcing the other, each one strengthening the unspoken message. The more of these signals that appear at the same time, the stronger the underlying interest tends to be. Research by Dr. Monica Moore showed that women who displayed 4 or more non-verbal courtship signals within a short interaction were approached nearly 4 times more often than women who showed fewer signals. That finding tells us something powerful. Attraction leaves fingerprints, and those fingerprints can be read if you train your attention properly. None of these behaviors are dramatic. None of them are theatrical. They are small, subtle, and easy to overlook. But they are also ancient and biologically wired. And that is exactly why they matter. In modern dating culture, where communication often passes through screens, emojis, and carefully curated images, many men overcomplicate what is actually very simple. They chase clever lines, they memorize scripts, they spend endless time searching for the perfect phrase. Yet they overlook the most honest channel of communication, the body standing directly in front of them. Do not chase cleverness. Chase clarity, because clarity comes from noticing alignment, and alignment often appears in the torso before it is ever heard in her voice. When she turns her entire body toward you in a crowded room, instead of keeping it angled away, when her shoulders stay open rather than folding defensively, when her posture softens and her center line aligns with yours. This is not simple politeness. It is comfort, layered with interest, and comfort is the soil where attraction grows. If you truly want to understand how love develops, rather than simply how to impress someone, you must first understand the role of safety. In female psychology, safety comes before desire, and that sense of safety is often expressed through openness in the ventral side of the body. The human nervous system is designed to protect the front of the body when danger is perceived. So if she feels uncertain, tense, or uninterested, her torso may subtly turn away. Her shoulders may close in, her arms might fold across her midsection, forming a protective barrier. But when she feels comfortable, when your presence feels grounded and steady, her body tends to align toward you almost naturally, as if drawn by a quiet magnet. This is not magic. It is measurable, it is observable, and this is where disciplined awareness becomes your advantage. Psychology tricks are often misunderstood as manipulation, but real mastery comes from observation, not control. You cannot force someone's torso to open toward you. The only thing you can do is create the kind of atmosphere where it happens naturally. Stay calm, stay composed, stay present. Agitation pushes people away, while steadiness invites them in. When you enter an interaction with quiet confidence, instead of restless urgency, her body has space to relax. And relaxation is the doorway to openness. Many men undermine themselves by leaning too quickly into her personal space before she has leaned into theirs. They confuse closeness with progress. But attraction works through mutual alignment, not one-sided pursuit. If her torso remains directed toward you, even while distractions happen, people walking past, background noise interrupting the moment, that steady orientation tells you her attention is anchored. Attention is a kind of currency, and the torso often shows where that currency is being invested. Pay attention to the small adjustments as well. If she subtly moves her chair or shifts her stance so her center continues facing you, she is maintaining the connection. Do not overlook that. Do not dismiss it as coincidence. The body rarely maintains that level of alignment without a reason. In female psychology, an open torso often acts like a statement without words. It quietly says, "I feel comfortable here," and comfort is the doorway that allows emotional escalation to happen. If you want to understand how love begins, or at least how meaningful connections start, you must realize that it rarely begins with dramatic speeches. It begins with shared space that feels safe. When the torso leans slightly forward during conversation, it signals engagement, and engagement is the seed of attachment. When she mirrors your slight forward lean, when her shoulders subtly match your energy instead of pulling away, that mirroring reinforces connection. Mirroring is one of the most well-documented psychological patterns in human bonding, but it works best when it emerges naturally rather than being forced. Do not copy her movements deliberately. Be genuine. Let your calm focus create the environment where synchronization can happen on its own. When that synchronization appears, You will often see it in the alignment of your bodies before you even feel it in the rhythm of your conversation. This is where patience separates the impulsive from the perceptive. If you notice the exposed neck, the visible wrists, the legs angled toward you, and the torso open, and these signals appear together within a short period, you are seeing a pattern that research consistently associates with attraction. If only one signal appears by itself, slow down, stay grounded, gather more information. Frustration clouds perception while clarity keeps you balanced. The real power behind understanding psychology and female behavior does not come from forcing results. It comes from reading reality accurately. Accurate observation prevents unnecessary rejection because you move forward when the door is already slightly open instead of pushing when it is clearly closed. That is how you move with precision rather than pressure. And precision is attractive because it shows awareness. Awareness is rare, and rarity creates value. When she senses that you are not desperately searching for signals, but calmly noticing what is already there, she relaxes even more. Relaxation leads to openness. Openness strengthens alignment. Alignment builds connection. And connection is where something meaningful can begin. So if you are serious about understanding how love develops in a way that feels mutual rather than one-sided, train your awareness. Focus on the quiet language of the torso. Don't rush. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't turn small moments into drama. Be thoughtful. Be attentive. Be disciplined. The body communicates in whispers, not in loud announcements. And the man who learns to notice those whispers doesn't need to chase or push. He simply recognizes the moment when the center of her body turns fully toward him, when her shoulders open without hesitation, when her posture leans closer instead of pulling away, and he understands that beneath those small, ancient signals lies a simple truth. She feels safe, she feels engaged, and she is allowing space for something to grow. Conclusion: 4 body parts. She shows if she likes you. Vertical bar psychology tricks. All right, my friend. Now you understand the signals. You know what a slight tilt of the head can suggest. You recognize what it means when her neck is exposed, when her wrists are visible, when her legs point in your direction, and when her whole body faces you openly without hesitation. These movements are not random. They reflect comfort. They reflect openness. They reflect interest expressed without words. And here's my honest advice. Don't rush it. Don't overreact. Don't suddenly shift your energy. Stay calm. Stay grounded. Be the man who notices but doesn't panic. That's where most men lose their advantage. If her body is leaning toward you, your role becomes simple. Create a sense of safety. Maintain steady eye contact. Speak clearly. Guide the conversation forward in a natural way. Respond with confidence, not excitement. Move with intention, not desperation. When you stay composed, subtle interest can turn into genuine connection. Thanks for spending this time with me. If this gave you a new perspective, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more practical psychology you can actually apply in real life. And remember, signals create opportunity, but your response decides the result. Stay sharp, stay calm, and I'll see you in the next one.